So, hello. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Jossing, and awesome. My presentation is called Making It Better Tomorrow, Today. Nice little picture. So I'm going to start off by, when I started, gave you guys a survey, it seemed to me that a lot of you didn't really know the background of the story or why we wanted to do what we wanted to do with the story. So I'm going to do a lot of background just so you guys can catch up. So the very first thing, you can see a quote, and this is a quote said by a man named Muhammad, I'm going to script the last name, Ahmadinejad. He is the supreme leader of Iran, and this is what he said. I want to see Israel wiped off the map. He means this very literally. And this is his and his people's justification of that. 100 years ago, Israel did not exist. Instead, there was a country there called Palestine. Now, Palestine was basically all of Middle East, except Palestine was split up into Jewish and Arab areas. Now, it wasn't single states. These were just people living among each other. So what the UN and Britain did, they worked together to split that up and to create a Jewish state and a more stable Middle East. So they made Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and they extended Saudi Arabia. Now, when they did this, if you lived in Israel, you had to be Jewish. So if you weren't Jewish, you were Arab, you were kicked out immediately. This caused a very big feud between the countries. Now, because Palestine split, terrorism and acts of aggression broke out between both sides. As Iran clearly showed its hatred toward Israel, Iran started to gain more nuclear ambitions. So Israel got extremely worried with that. Now, the best way to describe the relationship is obviously uneasy. As Iran continues to pursue the likes, as Iran continues to pursue the likes of nuclear ambitions, the U.S. just ignore that. The U.S. say that Iran can be untrustworthy, and we shouldn't trust them with the fact of nuclear anything, basically. When Iran says they have the right to nuclear materials for economical and energy use. So that, because they're falling behind in a lot of places that the globe has, and so they say it's their right to have it when the U.S. say they can be untrustworthy and they shouldn't deserve it because they could use it for other things, as seen by this political cartoon. Just soak that in for a second. Awesome. So Maslow's hierarchy, we can see a couple things that can be gained if we do what we need to do and not take down, but make the leader step down from his spot. Not so much physiological needs, but safety and security. That's very big for both Jerusalem, America, us, and Israel. Health, employment, property, family, and social stability. Also, I guess you can say, if you're not very straight on, you can say some self-esteem things like confidence. Some people can live without fear, therefore they can be more confident in their everyday doings. They can start to have respect for others, the Jewish people and the Arab people. So the ramifications, if we don't do what we're supposed to. If we continue to do nothing, the acts of terror will continue and also get worse for Israel, Jerusalem, America, and us. This actually happened very recently. There was a regime bombing of Jerusalem right on the border of a town that Iran thought they deserved. So they decided to attack the town, and they didn't necessarily try and take it over, they just wanted to prove a point. Now, some people would say that this is even possible. World War III or a nuclear holocaust. People will start to choose sides. Iran, they're actually thinking about attacking Israel right now to get their land back. So if that happens, people are going to take certain sides. I know that Canada and America are both on Israel's side, and for not so obvious reasons, Russia and China and some other communist countries are on Iran's side. So if this happens, there could be a possible World War III happen. Problem solving. Obviously, one of the first things we can do is a peaceful negotiation. The UN has started talking to Israel and Iran about a peaceful negotiation and trying to get the regime or supreme leader to step down. The other thing we can do is forceful invasion and persuasion. As we know, the states are very good at this. We've seen this early on in Iran, a very long time ago, and also in Iraq very recently, and again, Afghanistan. Peaceful negotiations, really pretty, and forceful invasion, not so pretty. So what can we do, you can ask yourself. Obviously, we're in the first stage of this. So in the first stage, we have to think about we can spread the word. Now, if you go on Facebook, not so much Twitter, I haven't gotten there yet, but if you go on Facebook, like me on Facebook. I've recently created a group that is starting to spread the word about the Iran issues. Not so much, people have already gone to the group and said, well, what can we do? It's like exactly one of those groups where you go on, oh, 1 like equals 1 prayer, or 1 like equals $1, but it's a joke, right? Obviously, this is just for thought, so you know what's going on. It won't necessarily change things, but it'll help everyone else know what's going on. So it'll make the government know that we know what's going on, and they're not just going to skip over another problem. I put this in because it reminded me of the Three Musketeers. All is for one and one is for all. So if you have a voice, obviously it'll be heard because every voice counts. Some people thought about asking me and testing my patience. Some people said potential war is not our problem. Yet every war has an impact on everybody. Not necessarily economically in some places, but obviously morally, especially for Canada, seeing as we're a part of the UN and NATO, and it is our moral obligation to be able to come and help these countries that need help. The other one was, we're peacekeepers, we shouldn't have the initiative. Yet, many nations have relied on us in the past, in World War I and World War II, to start marches that need to be led. Sure, the states can lead, but we need to be there right there behind them. The threat of another world war is very real, and we need to subdue it as fast as possible, as to not let others put kindle in the fire, so that Russia and China can't persuade Iran to do what they think is the right thing and take over Israel. And these are my sources. Obviously, one of them, as you read, was from a Harvard Law study, and then Rust Owen, his name's Owen Rust, back for it. He's actually a very famous writer, and he published this very recently in Avoiding World War III. So that's to take into account. And I do my bow. That's my speech. I can now take any questions if you have them.